Dad says no to walking me down the aisle and chooses a Hawaii trip with his favorite daughter instead, but then changes his mind one day before the wedding because I did this. So I, 26F, am getting married this week. There are just 5 days to go for the wedding and I am caught up in so much drama already. And it's all thanks to my sister and my dad, so that's great. For context, my dad has been a single father for the past 10 years since my mother passed away after a long-drawn battle with the big C when I was 16. It was incredibly difficult for us, but more so for me because back then, I realized that now, nobody was in my corner and my sister would get to lord over me all she wanted to. My mother has treated both of us equally, but my dad definitely had a soft spot for my sister, and after my mom passed away, she would get away with everything that she did, but it was not that easy for me. My sister, Katie, is 2 years older than me and 10 times more annoying and entitled than anyone I know. She would literally treat me like her personal servant when I was younger, and every time that I protested, my dad would ask me to do what she wanted to do because apparently, she was too fragile to do things for herself. That was just an act, I knew that, but my dad believed her. It always helped that she had been a sickly child when she was younger, but as she grew up, she grew out of that. However, she still liked to pretend that she was chronically recovering from colds or several other common illnesses at any given point just to get out of doing her chores, so I would end up doing all the work around the house. Then she would just laze around in her room doing nothing. I used to find it incredibly annoying, but if I didn't do it, nobody else would do it because my dad would always be too tired after coming back home from work and I did not want to bother him. Anyway, after I turned 18 and moved out for college, things started getting better for me because I didn't have to live with her anymore. We did not have any contact after college since I didn't like her and we never really got along. Not only did she make me do all the work, but she was also not very nice to be around. She would constantly take potshots at me, try to rile me up, and just be generally annoying. So I was pretty glad to be out of the house. I missed my dad, for sure, but then I wasn't going to sacrifice my sanity to live with my family. And I know a lot of people are going to find it weird that I used to actually get along with my dad, in spite of the fact that he was blatantly biased towards my sister, but I can't help it. We had a nice relationship and it used to be that way until recently. It wasn't like I was a doormat for him. I would always protest and stand up for myself when he would be too much to deal with, and we got into our fair share of fights over the years because of how biased he was towards Katie. But then, at the end of the day, he was still my father and I would make up with him eventually. I met my fiancée, Andy, in college, and after dating for almost 8 years, we finally decided to get married this year. We are in pretty good places in our respective careers, and it just felt like the right time. I can't say the same for my sister, though, since Katie has been doing pretty badly of late and has gone back to living with my dad. After she graduated, she had been living by herself for a couple of years, but then, last year she decided to quit her job to join her friend in their jewelry business. Unfortunately, it didn't exactly do well. They had done absolutely no research and neither were they adequately prepared and just jumped into it without thinking much, so naturally, it was doomed right from the beginning. Not only did they burn through all the investment money that they had mostly raised from family and friends, but they were not even able to get any substantial amount out of the business. She had already quit her job, and after her business flopped, had to shut it down, and since then she has been unemployed. It's been almost 6 months and she hasn't even bothered to start looking for another job, so she's completely reliant on my dad. He was planning on retiring in a couple of years, but now, I don't think that's feasible anymore since he is supporting her. This is just one of the things that we used to fight about recently because I think that he needs to tell her to get up and find a job because she can't just rely on her aging dad for the rest of her life and mope around because of one failed business venture. She needs to get out there and do something about her life. But my dad says that she just needs some time to get over things and deal with this emotionally before she commits to anything else. We have very opposing views on this topic, so we try not to talk about it since it will only lead to a fight. Besides, I got engaged just a couple of weeks after she had to shut down her business, and my dad thinks that that's another reason why she's so upset because even her younger sister is doing so well in life and she can't even bring herself to get out of bed on most days. I know for a fact that she is jealous of me right now because she makes sure that she puts it out on social media and pretends that everything awful in the world is happening to her, just for attention. And every time somebody responds to her posts, that definitely seems like a cry for help. She brings up how I am doing so great and how she deserves all of this and not me, but apparently, I got it because I'm willing to manipulate and step on people to get ahead. I obviously don't do that, and I am where I am because of my hard work and efforts, and she is where she is because she likes to play the victim. Even though she is the one responsible for all the bad things that have been happening to her. Well, except for one, maybe. 3 weeks ago, her cat passed away after almost 15 years. She's had that cat for a really long time and she was extremely attached to it. When that happened, she was naturally racked with grief, and my dad told me that things were so bad that I started feeling bad for her. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to reach out to her and give her my condolences, but I did not want to seem fake, so I just told my dad to convey my message. Anyway, she had already been pretty depressed, and then when her cat passed away, she refused to even eat for days, and my dad would have to literally beg her to get out of bed and try to survive. It was really pathetic, and I really felt bad for both of them. But I was really busy with wedding prep because there were just a couple of weeks to go until the big day, so I decided not to involve myself too much with what was going on there. I kept in touch with my dad and I would comfort him whenever he would be too upset about the way Katie was behaving, but that was really the most that I could do. Anyway, I did not think that this would lead to any trouble for me, but a few days back, my dad contacted me to tell me that he would not be able to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. I had obviously assumed that it would be him doing that, but I had called him to formally ask him to walk me down the aisle the day before that phone call. I thought that he would accept it immediately, but he told me that he needed some time to think about it, which was suspicious. And then he called me the next day to decline, and when I asked him why, since obviously I was perplexed, his reason just blew my mind. He told me that Katie had cremated her cat a few weeks ago, and now, she wanted to go to Hawaii and scatter his ashes on the beach because a couple of years back, she and a bunch of her friends had gone on a road trip to Hawaii and she had taken her cat with her. So apparently she had a lot of good memories of that place and it was special to her. And the day of my wedding was exactly 1 month after her cat had passed away, so she wanted to scatter the ashes of my wedding. So not only did my dad decline to walk me down the aisle, but he was also telling me that he would not be able to be present at my wedding. He said that he was really sorry about this and wanted to make it up to me later, but he would have to go with Katie since this was the first time in weeks that she had spoken about wanting to do something and get out of the house. She also specifically requested my dad to accompany her because she wanted somebody to be there to emotionally support her. I was extremely pissed off when he said that, but I tried to deal with things calmly and told my dad that maybe a friend of hers could accompany her, or maybe she could do it at least one day after my wedding, just so that he would at least be able to attend. I wanted at least one parent to be present at my wedding, but my dad said that she was pretty firm about what she had said and he had made the same suggestions himself as well because he wanted to be able to attend my wedding as well. But when he tried to suggest anything else, she got really upset and started accusing him of not caring about her feelings. Apparently, according to her, on my wedding day, I would have loads of people around me who cared about me, but she only had my father and she thinks that she should be the priority right now since she's going through a really difficult phase in her life. When my dad said that he also believes that given her situation, she should be the priority at the moment, I completely lost my mind and I told him that she has been his priority all his life, so I'm not surprised that he is ditching me on my wedding day just to be with her. I didn't even give him a chance to say anything else and just hung up and blocked him everywhere. I was very upset, and when I told Andy about it, he seemed to understand where I was coming from. I cried a lot for the next 2 days, but then, I decided to get back at my father and do something that I knew would piss him off. Since I knew that my sister was playing mind games with me and trying to piss me off, the right thing to do would be to do something that I knew would piss them off. So, instead of crying about it, I decided to ask my uncle to walk me down the aisle. My uncle is my dad's twin brother and they absolutely loathe each other. I've known that ever since I was a kid, and I've seen firsthand how nasty they can get when they're around each other. Whenever they would meet each other at family, events, and stuff, they would constantly try to one-up each other and it would make it awkward for everybody else around them. My grandparents tried really hard to get them to stop, but they just hated each other so much, it was very difficult to control them. Eventually, they grew out of it, and after my mom passed away, my dad stopped attending any event where he knew that my uncle would be present. I personally did not have anything against my uncle and I could honestly sympathize with him because I knew what it felt like to have a sibling who you hated. But we did not have a particularly close relationship either. Anyway, after that conversation with my dad, I was so pissed off that I decided to go out of my way to contact my uncle and ask him to walk me down the aisle. He was pretty surprised when I did that and said that he didn't know what to say because he didn't think that we were close enough for that, but I told him that this was to make my dad upset because of what he had done. After that, I did not need to do any more convincing. He was pretty much on board as soon as he heard that this is going to piss my dad off. My uncle actually started laughing when I asked him if he wanted to be a part of this. Even though they were in their 50s, he told me that he would still never pass up an opportunity to embarrass his brother. Amen to that, ha. Anyway, we agreed that we were going to make a post about it and that would definitely reach my father. So that very